The chains announced him before his face did. Metal links dragging across marble, slow and deliberate. The kind of sound that makes a courtroom forget how to breathe. The double doors swung open, and Axel Strickland walked in like a man who'd never once believed in mercy, judges, or second chances. He stood 6'3" with shoulders built like a freight engine and ink crawling up both arms in black tangled vines. His leather vest hung open, cracked and faded. The Death's Choir MC patch spread across the back in letters law enforcement recognized across 4 states. His boots were still dusted with something. Road grit, maybe blood. Hard to say. Even shackled at the wrists and ankles, he moved like a storm that had learned to walk upright. Then his eyes found Judge Frank Caprio. The room went still. What followed wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It was something no one in that Rhode Island courtroom had prepared for. And it ended the entire case right there. Before we show you how it unfolded, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. And make sure you subscribe to Order in the Court with that bell turned on, because today's story proves that sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one who refuses to break. It was Wednesday morning, 9:55, in Providence Municipal Court. The kind of morning where coffee goes lukewarm on half-filled notepads and traffic tickets pile up like snow. Judge Caprio had already worked through 3 parking violations and a noise complaint when the air changed. An unnatural quiet before a storm. The kind where even sound seems to hold its breath. A deputy near the side door shifted his weight. The court stenographer, a woman who'd recorded everything from panhandlers to gang leaders, stopped typing mid-sentence. Then came the chains. Axel Strickland walked to the defendant's podium flanked by 2 officers, one twice his age, the other half his size. When he stopped, his ankle shackle scraped the tile. For a moment, the entire courtroom forgot how to breathe. Judge Caprio adjusted his glasses, voice steady and formal, but not unkind. "You must be Mr. Strickland." Axel didn't answer. He just stood there, jaw set, eyes scanning the room like he was daring anyone, to meet his gaze. Nobody did. Caprio opened the manila folder in front of him. "Let the record reflect the defendant is present. Charges include aggravated assault, resisting arrest, criminal damage to property, and reckless endangerment tied to an incident at Eddie's Bar on Atwells Avenue 2 nights ago." He looked up. "Is that accurate, Mr. Strickland?" Axel gave the smallest shrug, the chains clinking. "You tell me. You're the one reading the list." Caprio didn't blink. "You have the right to remain silent, but if you choose to speak, I recommend respect over sarcasm." Axel leaned forward, forearms resting on the podium. "Respect's earned. I don't hand it out like candy." "Noted," Caprio said calmly. "And yet this courtroom doesn't run on what you choose to hand out. It runs on the law." Something like a smile tugged at the corner of Axel's mouth. Not amusement, more like a snarl that found manners entertaining. "I've sat in rooms like this before, Judge. Different cities, different faces, same setup. You talk, I listen. You feel powerful. I feel nothing." Caprio folded his hands. "Justice isn't about feelings. It's about facts." Axel's eyebrows rose. "You really believe that?" "Every morning," Caprio answered. Axel looked around the room slowly. The benches, the flags, the state seal behind the judge's chair. "This whole thing feels like a stage," he muttered. "Sometimes it is," Caprio replied. "But not the kind you think. This is where truth performs and consequences follow." Axel let out a dry, rumbling laugh. "Well then, let the show begin." Behind him, someone in the gallery shifted. An older man whispered something to his wife. She shushed him immediately. The tension in the room was thick enough to taste. Even the clerk had frozen mid-motion, hands hovering over a stack of papers like she was afraid to breathe. Caprio continued unfazed. He turned the first page and read, voice calm as winter. Police reports indicate the defendant was involved in a physical altercation at approximately 11:13 p.m. at Eddie's Bar. Witnesses state he struck a patron with a pool cue, broke 2 bar stools during the incident, and threatened the bartender with a broken glass before being subdued by law enforcement. He paused. "Do you deny any of that?" Axel clicked his tongue once. I don't deny a damn thing. Guy disrespected me. You don't do that in front of my brothers. Your brothers being the motorcycle club? Axel nodded. Death's Choir. You've heard of us. Caprio didn't look up. I've heard of many things, Mr. Strickland. What matters is what's in front of me. He turned another page. There's also a file here from the Rhode Island State Police. It says that in the last 6 years, you've been arrested 5 times. Assault, illegal weapons possession, public intimidation, and inciting a riot at a funeral. Axel smirked. That one got dismissed. Dismissed doesn't erase the pattern, Caprio said evenly. For the first time, Axel's voice shifted. Not softer, but honest in a way that sounded like gravel breaking open. Look, you read reports. I lived those nights. Big difference. Men like me, we come from fire. That's what built us. Not handbooks. Not courtroom etiquette. Axel's words snagged in his throat. Whatever came next wasn't anger. It was something heavier, something he wasn't used to letting anyone see. He stared at the floor, his breath coming tight, as if the confession he'd been about to make weighed more than the chains on his wrists. Caprio didn't rush him. He never did. He simply waited with that calm, anchored patience that had disarmed tougher men than Axel Strickland. Finally, Axel swallowed hard. When people see me, he said slowly, they don't see a man. They see trouble, a warning, problem waiting to happen. So I learned to be what they already decided I was. Caprio's eyes softened, lines deepening around them. That's not learning, he said gently. That's surrender. Axel's head snapped up. No, he growled, but the growl cracked halfway through. It's survival. Maybe once, Caprio replied, but not anymore. You're not a kid trying to outrun the world. You're a grown man choosing the same road over and over, even when it leads you back here. Axel opened his mouth, then shut it again. He looked older suddenly, less like a beast in chains, more like a man worn down by the weight of his own legend. You think I wanted this? He whispered, almost to himself. The fights, the arrests, the damn headlines? I didn't ask to be the monster people see. Then stop feeding it, Caprio said quietly. The words landed like a hammer. Not loud, not sharp, just impossibly true. Axel blinked rapidly, something shifting behind his eyes. The deputies exchanged a glance. They had seen Axel Strickland threaten men with a look, but they had never seen him shaken by a sentence. Caprio leaned forward. You told me people look at you and decide who you are before you speak. So tell me, Mr. Strickland, who do you say you are? For a heartbeat, Axel didn't move, didn't breathe. The courtroom felt suspended in place, every person hanging on a silence that suddenly felt sacred. Then Axel spoke, voice low and unsteady. I don't know anymore. And for the first time since he entered the room, the chains didn't make him look dangerous. They made him look human. Caprio nodded slowly, not dismissing the words, not absorbing them blindly, just letting them land where they were meant to. You're right about one thing, he said. The system doesn't always ask why, but I do. Axel's jaw flexed. Caprio leaned forward, elbows on the bench, his voice dropping to something almost conversational. Dangerously quiet, because quiet meant truth. You've told me reasons, he said, but reasons aren't the same as direction. Every road you've taken, every fight, every night in lockup, it all points the same way. Not because life forced it on you, but because somewhere along the line, you stopped reaching for anything else. Axel's nostrils flared. What else was there? Anything, Caprio answered. Everything. But you let the world define you once, and you never bothered to redefine yourself. Axel swallowed, something sharp and painful flickering across his face before he could hide it. He hated this. He hated how naked truth felt compared to fists. Caprio continued. You think you're tired of judges, he said, but you're tired of your own story. The violence, the chaos, the inevitability of ending up right back here. Axel's fingers curled against the podium. You don't know me. No, Caprio said, but I know the path you're on. I've seen its ending more times than you can imagine. And it always looks the same. Angry men, broken bodies, and a lifetime of reasons that never saved anybody. The words hit Axel harder than any punch he'd ever taken. He looked away, blinking fast. Caprio didn't let him escape. "You told me the system numbers you," he said. "So tell me something, Mr. Strickland. When you look in the mirror, what number do you give yourself?" Axel's throat worked. He didn't answer. For the first time since he'd walked enchained and unmovable, he looked lost, like someone who'd been running on fumes and bravado for years and suddenly realized the tank had been empty the whole time. Caprio sat back. "What happened at Eddie's bar?" he said gently. "Wasn't about disrespect. It was about a man who's been fighting ghosts so long, he's forgotten how to live among the living." Axel exhaled, long and shaky. He wasn't crying, wasn't breaking, but the armor he wore, the one he thought was welded to his bones, had begun to crack. Caprio let that silence breathe, then spoke with a weight that settled the room. "Mr. Strickland, the law has consequences, and so does finally telling the truth. Before I consider anything further, I have one last question, and I need the real answer." Axel lifted his eyes. Caprio's voice softened. "What is it you're actually fighting?" Axel opened his mouth, and what he said next would change the entire outcome of the case. "So now you wear that history like armor." "Damn right I do," Axel shot back, chin raised. "Because I got tired of people pretending the rules were made for me. They weren't. They were made to keep people like me in line." Caprio leaned forward just a fraction, the kind of movement that carried the weight of years, not inches. "What if I told you," he said quietly, "that I agree the system hasn't always been fair?" Axel froze. Just a blink, nothing more, but enough to crack the wall he hid behind. "I'd say," Axel murmured, voice rough, "that's the first true thing I've heard today." For a moment, one brief, strange, electric moment, something flickered between them. Not respect, not forgiveness, just recognition. Two men from different worlds staring at the same scar from opposite sides. Then Caprio turned another page, and the moment shattered. "I also see here," he said, tone even, "that when officers attempted to restrain you, you headbutted one of them and attempted to bite another." Axel's lip curled. "He tried to pin me down. I don't like being touched." Caprio nodded, not agreeing, just acknowledging. "And that brings us to now." He closed the folder gently, hand steady. "You don't trust the system. You don't trust the law. You think all of this," he gestured subtly, "bench, flags, oath, seal, is theater. Because it is," Axel snapped. "People like me don't win here. We just get processed." Caprio stood. Not angrily, not theatrically, just stood. And somehow the entire room tightened around that single motion. "Mr. Strickland," he said, voice resonant but calm, "this courtroom has seen grieving mothers, were veterans, teenage addicts, and kids orphaned by gang violence, and not one of them, not one, has ever looked me in the eye and claimed they were bigger than the law." Axel's fists slowly balled, knuckles whitening against the chain. "I'm not here to win," Caprio continued. "I'm here to listen. But that listening ends, right now, when you convince yourself you're untouchable." Axel's breath flared in his chest. A muscle in his jaw twitched. Arrogance or fear, no one could tell. "Maybe I am," he said. The room went dead still. What came next would decide everything. The stare between them felt electric, and when Caprio said, "Then show me," it didn't land like a challenge at all. It sounded like an opening he dared Axel to step through. For the first time, Axel Strickland had no ready answer. His eyes drifted around the room, not searching for an escape route or backup, but for something solid to hold on to. There was nothing. The same courtroom that watched him stride in like a storm now watched the edges of his anger quietly come undone. His story wasn't carrying the weight of his fury anymore, and somewhere inside, Axel understood that truth. The silence shattered. A tiny twitch crossed Axel's face. The kind that happens just before someone explodes, the kind officers react to a heartbeat too late. Everyone in that room felt the shift before Caprio did. Axel's eyes narrowed into slits. "You want to see untouchable?" he said, voice low and dangerous. "Watch this." Then everything detonated at once. He lunged forward, raw, fast, unfiltered. The chain on his ankle jerked tight but didn't stop him. His lawyer gasped, reaching out too late as Axel shoved the defendant's table aside, metal legs screeching across tile like a weapon. A deputy lunged, fingers brushing air, and suddenly Axel was on the bench, looming over the judge. He grabbed Caprio by the collar. For one impossible heartbeat, the entire courtroom froze in horror. Then came the sharp crack, a short, brutal hook that snapped Caprio's head back an inch. Not a full swing, but enough to ignite chaos. Deputies crashed into Axel from behind, one locking his arms, the other trying to tear him off the bench. A woman in the gallery screamed. A father shielded his child's eyes. Phones rose in shaking hands, capturing every wild second. Axel roared as they forced him to the floor, his voice ragged and splintered with fury. "You're all fakes. Every one of you. I ain't scared of your damn rules." A mother hugged her son close, covering his face, though he twisted to keep watching. A reporter's phone slipped from her hands, clattering onto a wooden bench, still recording nothing but the dusty chandelier above. Somewhere in the back, a voice whispered, trembling, "Oh my God!" Another voice, older and trembling, called out, "Get security!" But security was already there, already wrestling with Axel's fury. It took 3 men to finally drive him to the floor, his chest heaving against the marble, spit and blood streaking beneath him. One deputy's shirt was torn open. Another was gasping for air, face flushed with effort. For a long moment, the only sound was breathing, heavy, uneven, shattered. It felt like every person in that courtroom had been dragged into the struggle. Caprio, now seated again, one hand pressed to his cheek, didn't speak. Not yet. Not until Axel lay pinned, wrists locked behind him, face smeared with blood, chained and exhausted. Only then did Judge Caprio finally say, softly but clearly, "Let him up." A deputy hesitated. "Sir, let him up." The entire courtroom froze. The officers reluctantly eased off, and Axel slumped against the base of the bench, chest rising and falling in jagged bursts. For the first time, he didn't look like a nightmare from the road. He looked like a man who'd been fighting ghosts for too many years. Caprio quietly pulled a tissue from his drawer and dabbed the thin line of blood at his own mouth. Everyone expected rage. An explosion, a condemnation, a thunderous outburst from behind the bench. Instead, they got nothing. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Silence stretched across the room like a held breath. The fluorescent lights hummed. Someone inhaled sharply in the back row. The heating system clicked inside the walls. A pen rolled off the clerk's desk and hit the floor with a tiny sound that echoed like a gunshot. Axel's eyes flicked around in panic, waiting for the punishment he knew had to come. But no one moved. No one shouted. No one struck back. Caprio rose slowly, deliberately, with the full moral weight of the courtroom behind him. "You assaulted a judge in a court of law," he said, voice steady. Axel smirked through his labored breaths. "Yeah, I did." Caprio didn't address the deputies. He didn't reach for the gavel. He didn't flinch. Instead, he looked directly at Axel, as if he were staring straight through the armor, straight into the years that built it. "And I'm still not dismissing your case." A ripple of disbelief ran through the courtroom. Axel frowned. "What? You want retaliation?" Caprio said. "You want me to make this personal? Because if I do, then your story stays alive. The story where everyone's out to get you, where the system never gives you a fair shot." Caprio leaned forward, not furious, just deeply, profoundly tired. "I won't give you that satisfaction." Axel didn't say a single word. He couldn't speak. His jaw was open, but whatever defiance he had left had vanished. His voice was gone, hollowed out. "This court stands not because of force," Caprio said quietly, "but because of what we refuse to become." The words didn't explode, they settled. Soft, steady, undeniable. Snow on stone. Axel didn't move. For the first time since he stepped into that room, Something colder than steel shackles slipped around him. A justice that didn't tremble, didn't hit back, didn't need to. Caprio lowered himself into his seat again. His body stiff from the blow, though not a flicker of pain crossed his face. Just a tired resolve carved by years behind the bench. He lifted the case file. The folder bent, papers crumpled from the scuffle, and smoothed it with the same care someone might use when straightening a fallen photograph. "You're going to sit in that chair," Caprio said, voice steady as bedrock. "And you're going to listen, because today, justice will be delivered. Not with a fist, but with the truth." A medic stepped forward hesitantly. Caprio raised a hand, dismissing him with a quiet shake of his head. "Later," he murmured. "Justice first." He opened the folder again. "This isn't your first visit to a courtroom. You've left a trail of charges behind you: New York, Pittsburgh, Chicago. Bar fights, vandalism, threats." Axel's head twitched, not quite a reaction, more like muscle memory. "But what stands out," Caprio continued, "isn't the violence. It's the pattern. The steady, deliberate unraveling of everything in your orbit. Friends, jobs, marriages, all ending the same way." Axel muttered something under his breath. Caprio paused. "Speak up." "I don't trust people," Axel said. "They don't trust me." "Keeps things simple." Caprio nodded, not in approval, but in recognition of how much weight that sentence carried. "And what about this court?" he asked. "You think we're against you too?" Axel shrugged. "You wear the robe." "I wear the robe," Caprio repeated softly. "But do you know what that means?" He leaned forward, elbows resting gently on the bench. "I've seen fathers break down over tickets because it meant no groceries for a week. I've watched teenagers lie just to protect friends who abandoned them the moment trouble came. I've listened to every excuse, every confession, every desperate plea, and still tried to find the thread of truth in all of it." His voice hardened, not angry, but resolute. "And it means that today, after you assaulted me, I still refuse to turn you over to the same system you claim is out to destroy you." He let the words settle. A judge who had every reason to retaliate was choosing not to. Not because Axel deserved mercy, but because Caprio refused to abandon the principles Axel believed no one lived by. Axel didn't smirk this time. He didn't growl. He didn't spit. He just listened. "Not out of pity, Mr. Strickland," Caprio said, voice calm, deliberate, "but because I won't let your rage rewrite the rules." Axel blinked. Not the words, he'd heard plenty of words, but the calm, the unshakable gravity of a man who had been yelled at, cursed at, even struck, and yet still chose restraint over retaliation. "You think you live by your own code," Caprio continued, "but real codes don't leave trails of broken people behind." Axel's jaw tightened. "I did what I had to do." "No," Caprio corrected, leaning slightly forward. "You did what you wanted to do. There's a difference." A long pause hung in the air. "You see that child in the gallery?" Caprio asked. All eyes followed his gaze. A boy, maybe 10, sat frozen next to his mother. One small hand rested on her chest, shielding him from what he had already seen. Caprio turned back to Axel. "I watched you try to hurt someone because you didn't like the rules, but I also watched what happened next. When you struck, we did not strike back. When you tried to destroy order, it did not respond with chaos." His voice softened, almost to a whisper. "He'll remember that longer than your punch." Axel's shoulders slumped slightly. Caprio returned to the bench, tapping the next page with the edge of his pen. "Let's talk about March 14th. That was the day you were evicted from your apartment on Pleasant Street. Landlord filed notice after months of complaints. Noise, damage, threats. Police reports show neighbors called 911 6 times in 10 weeks. Axel scratched the side of his face. "Wasn't my noise." "But you lived there," Caprio said firmly. "I lived there," Axel muttered. "With someone else." "My girl, Jen," Axel added, voice low. "And where is she now?" Caprio asked. No answer. "Mr. Strickland." Axel's jaw clenched. His fingers fidgeted along the table edge. "She left. Got tired of the drama. Caprio read from the file. Says here she filed for a restraining order 2 days after the eviction. Axel rolled his eyes. Of course she did. Of course, Caprio said, raising an eyebrow. She said I scared her, Axel snapped. But I never laid a hand on her. I punched walls. Not her. I shouted. Yeah, but I never heard her, Caprio said gently, letting the words linger. You know, the judge continued, voice soft but steady. Sometimes pain doesn't need bruises. Anger, even when it doesn't land, can still push people away. She knew what she was getting into, Axel muttered, but his voice had lost its edge. Did she? Caprio asked softly. Or did she see someone she thought she could save, and realize too late you didn't want saving? Axel's jaw worked side to side. His eyes drifted somewhere distant, watching a scene only he could see. She used to make me breakfast, he murmured almost to himself. Eggs, bacon, the whole thing. Even when I came home at 3 in the morning smelling like a bar fight, she'd be there with a plate and coffee. Never said a word about it. Until she did. What did she say? Caprio prompted, voice calm, almost gentle. Axel looked up, and for the first time, something raw shone in his eyes. Unguarded, real. She said I was killing the man she fell in love with, that he was still in there, but I wouldn't let him out. His voice cracked just slightly. She said, watching me was like watching someone drown on purpose. Caprio closed the file, hand resting on top like a seal. You told me earlier you don't trust people. I understand. Trust, once shattered, doesn't glue back easily. But what I see, Mr. Strickland, is a man haunted not just by betrayal from others, but by betrayal of himself. Axel's mouth opened, but no words came. You're not afraid of courts, Caprio continued. You're afraid of being seen. You think you know me? No, Axel muttered. I think I see parts of you you've spent your whole life hiding. Caprio paused. Like that letter in your pocket. Axel froze. His right hand instinctively went to his jacket, the only piece of his outfit not searched after the earlier chaos. How'd you know? He asked, tense. Caprio gave a faint, knowing smile. I've been watching defendants for 30 years. You touched it 3 times since you sat down. Axel hesitated. Then slowly, reluctantly, he pulled the envelope from his coat. It was wrinkled, yellowed, folded and refolded, carried not for function, but for weight. Who's it from? Caprio asked, voice gentle. Axel swallowed. My mom. Caprio nodded. May I? Axel looked down at the letter, then slowly extended it. A bailiff took it and handed it to the judge. Caprio unfolded it carefully, as if it might dissolve in his hands. He read silently, then spoke. She says, Axel, I know the world's made you cold, but you weren't born that way. I remember you at 5, afraid to step on worms after the rain. Axel looked away. Caprio continued, voice steady. I know you're angry, but son, if you let that anger keep speaking for you, soon no one will remember your real voice. He folded the letter carefully. She wrote this 2 years ago, and you've kept it. Axel didn't respond. Why? Caprio asked. His voice barely audible, Axel muttered. Because no one else talks to me like that. Caprio returned the letter. Maybe that's the problem. Axel held the paper like it might vanish. In the gallery, nobody moved. For the first time, the courtroom wasn't reacting to Axel Strickland's violence. It was witnessing his humanity. Caprio exhaled slowly. And now we decide what happens next. He tapped his pen once, then set it down with finality. Mr. Strickland, your actions today could have ended this hearing. The moment you raised your hand, everyone knew what could have happened, what should have happened under the law. Assaulting a judge is not something you walk away from. Axel nodded once, acceptance, or maybe even a quiet welcome of fate. But I am not going to do that. Gasps echoed across the room. Axel looked up, eyebrows twitching. Not in defiance, but in disbelief. I am not going to do that, Caprio continued, voice calm but firm. Because justice carries a higher obligation than punishment. it must also be honest. He stood, not in anger, but with authority. And the honest truth is this: what I saw today was a man who hasn't been given many reasons to believe in mercy, who's been thrown around by systems, discarded by people, hardened into someone he wasn't meant to be. But here's where honesty cuts both ways, Mr. Strickland. You are not innocent. You are not a victim. And you are not beyond consequence. Axel sat up straighter. You assaulted me, Caprio said. You disrupted a courtroom. You've endangered people with your past actions. And you carry wounds you refuse to treat. But you also, even if for 1 second, showed there might be a part of you still capable of listening. He turned to the clerk. For the charges of assault, property damage, and repeated violations of the court's code of conduct, this court sentences you as follows: 12 months probation under strict weekly behavioral therapy, 180 hours of community service at the Providence Veterans Home, and a mandatory letter of apology to the boy in the gallery who saw all of this, not to me. All eyes turned to the child, wide-eyed, his mother holding his shoulder. Caprio looked back at Axel. I am not letting you off easy. I am giving you work to do. Axel exhaled sharply, disbelief and something close to relief mingling in his expression. You don't want an apology? He asked. Caprio smiled faintly. I don't need one. This court is not about me. But I want you to understand something. That boy is going home tonight, and his mother will have to explain what he saw. She will have to explain why a grown man attacked a judge, why people sometimes choose violence. And years from now, when he thinks about the justice system, this moment will shape part of his understanding of it. His voice dropped, quiet but sharper than steel. You don't owe me anything, but you owe him the truth about what happens next. Whether you take this chance or throw it away, that's what your letter will be about. Not your excuses, not your justifications. What you chose to do when someone finally believed you could be better. The courtroom was so silent you could hear the old heating system tick. Caprio tapped the gavel once. Not a slam, just a clean, final sound. Sentence rendered. For a long moment, nobody moved. Not the attorneys, not the clerks, not even Axel. The tension that had gripped the room like a steel fist now released. Not with noise, but with quiet reverence. Slowly, people began to breathe again. The gallery watched in stunned stillness. The mother and son, a few reporters, an elderly woman knitting in the third row. The boy leaned forward. His mother whispered, but he kept his eyes on Axel. Axel noticed. He looked away, but the boy didn't. The court officer broke the silence first, voice low. Please remain seated as we proceed with the docket. As Axel was instructed to remain seated for further paperwork, the bailiff approached, placing a steady hand on the back of the bench behind him. Not hostile, not aggressive, just present, a reminder of what this room was meant to represent. A few feet away, the elderly woman in the third row resumed her knitting. The soft click-click of her needles was oddly comforting. She didn't look up, but her smile had shifted. Something quiet, knowing. Outside the courthouse, early reports were already trickling onto local news feeds, but none would capture what truly unfolded inside. The restraint, the mercy, the reminder that sometimes the greatest power lies in refusing to use force. Inside, Caprio moved on. Names were called. Charges read. The rhythm of the court returned. Yet for those who had witnessed it, this day, this moment would echo for a long time. Axel didn't move immediately. His body remained slumped in the defendant's chair, shoulders slack, eyes fixed on the now empty space in front of the judge's bench. His hands fidgeted at the frayed edge of his denim vest, the same one that had taken the brunt of his fall when the bailiffs pulled him back. The scabs on his knuckles had begun to crust over. His breathing was shallow, not panicked, just deflated. A court officer approached quietly. You're free to go for today. Probation office is down the hall. You'll be escorted. Axel didn't answer. He merely nodded once. As he stood, the leather of his vest creaked across his broad shoulders. The courtroom had mostly cleared. Only a handful of observers lingered, still stunned. The little boy was gone, but his seat near the gallery rail held the paper airplane he had folded from his mother's citation printout. Nose bent, wings uneven, it sat on the wooden bench. Axel stared at it. The bailiff beside him followed his gaze. "You good?" Axel grunted. "Never been good." The bailiff didn't push. "Then be different." Not a command. More a tired suggestion from someone who had seen too many men walk out these doors and never return the same. Axel walked slowly, not hunched, not dragging, just slower than when he had entered, as if the floor itself weighed heavier beneath him. In the hallway, fluorescent lights flickered above beige walls. The echo of his boots was the only sound until the officer opened the door to the probation office. "Someone will talk to you about the therapy program," the officer said. "You'll have to show up regularly." Axel nodded again. The day had ended, but something inside him felt different. Axel paused at the threshold. His hand still clutched the folded letter from his mother, now wrinkled further, edges faintly stained from the sweat of his palm. He didn't ask questions. He didn't fight. He just went in. As the door clicked shut behind him, Judge Caprio remained seated, reviewing the next file. For a brief moment, his eyes flicked toward the side exit where Axel had passed. No emotion crossed his face. Just the stillness of a man who had chosen the harder path and would choose it again. The prosecutor, standing nearby with a fresh docket folder, leaned closer. "Do you think he'll change?" Caprio set the folder down. "I think we just gave him a crack of light." She considered that. "You think he'll step into it?" Caprio finally looked at her. "That's not my job. I just opened the door." He picked up the next file and motioned to the bailiff. "Call the next case." The courtroom moved forward, one case at a time, like it always did. Outside, Axel sat in a cracked vinyl chair, filling out the first form of his mandated program. He glanced up at a crooked painting on the wall, a faded print of a mountain sunrise. He didn't smile, didn't sigh, but stared long enough to imagine what it might feel like to see it for real. Then, quietly, he wrote his name on the line marked participant. For a man who had never believed in courts, mercy, or the good in people, that was something. 3 weeks later, the paper airplane still sat on Deputy Rizzo's desk. He'd found it after the hearing, smoothed out the creases on a whim. The citation number was barely visible beneath the folds. He'd meant to throw it away a dozen times. He never did. On the 32nd day, a Tuesday, Axel Strickland walked into the courthouse again. No chains, no sneer, just a man in a flannel shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, holding a folded piece of paper in one hand and a small potted succulent in the other. Deputy Rizzo watched him from across the lobby. Axel's gait was different now. Not softer exactly, but less like a man bracing for a fight. More like someone who realized he didn't have to throw the first punch anymore. "You here for check-in?" Rizzo asked. Axel nodded. "And to drop something off." He held up the letter, handwritten, careful block letters that looked as if they'd taken hours, addressed simply to the boy in the gallery. Rizzo took it carefully. "I'll make sure it gets to him." Axel shifted the plant toward him. "For the judge, if he'll take it." Rizzo raised an eyebrow. "A cactus succulent," Axel clarified. "Doesn't need much. Just water once in a while and a little sun." "Figured that's about right." Rizzo smiled faintly. "I'll pass it along." Axel nodded and began to walk away, then paused. "Is he in today?" "Judge Caprio." "Yeah, courtroom 3, Rizzo said. Axel hesitated, then shook his head. "Nah, I'm good." He walked toward the exit but glanced back once at the courtroom doors. Through the small window, he could just make out the back of the judge's head. Familiar posture, calm authority. Axel didn't go in, but he didn't look away either. That evening, Judge Caprio found the succulent on his desk, a small note tucked beneath the pot. "Still working on it. Thank you for the door." No signature. None was needed. Caprio set the plant on the corner of his desk where morning light would hit it. He didn't say a word. He watered it once, adjusted the pot slightly, and returned to his files. That night, at dinner, he mentioned the day's events to his wife, the man who had come back, not because he had to, but because he'd started to believe he could. "Do you think he'll make it?" she asked. Caprio set down his fork and thought, "I think he's trying. And sometimes, that's the bravest thing a person can do." 6 months later, Axel completed his community service at the Providence Veterans Home. The coordinator, Gloria, a woman who'd seen every kind of volunteer, wrote to the court. In it, she mentioned that Axel had begun coming in on days he wasn't scheduled, sitting with older vets, the ones nobody visited, and simply listening. One of the veterans, a Korean War survivor named Earl, had started calling Axel son. The boy from the gallery, Michael, kept the letter Axel had written. His mother framed it and hung it in his room, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A reminder that people could choose differently, that anger didn't have to be the loudest voice in the room, and that sometimes the strongest thing you could do was stop fighting and start listening. Michael grew up studying social work. Years later, in his college application essay, he wrote about the day he watched a man attack a judge, and how that same judge chose mercy over punishment. He described how that single decision taught him more about justice than any textbook ever could. Somewhere in Providence, on a quiet street where autumn leaves gathered in rust-colored piles, Axel Strickland walked into a small apartment. Not the one on Pleasant Street, but a new one. Smaller, cleaner, with windows that actually let in light. He set his keys on the counter, made coffee, and sat at a second-hand table. On it lay a notebook, half filled with entries from his therapy sessions, and beside it, a photo of his mother smiling in a way he'd almost forgotten she could. He opened the notebook and wrote, "Day 180, still here, still trying." It wasn't poetry. It wasn't redemption. It was just a man, one day at a time, learning that the fire that had defined him didn't have to consume him. That the strongest code wasn't about who you could break, but who you could become when you finally stopped breaking yourself. Judge Caprio never saw Axel again after that day in court. But every morning, when the light hit the succulent on his desk, he remembered, justice isn't just about punishment or mercy. It's about offering people a door and trusting that, somewhere, they'll find the courage to walk through it. Codes that don't protect the weak, that leave no room for second chances, that fail to recognize humanity even in the hardest hearts. Those aren't codes at all. They're just chains dressed as principles. And in that Providence courtroom on that Wednesday morning, when a man lunged and the world held its breath, Judge Frank Caprio proved something lasting. The strongest response to violence isn't more violence. It's the quiet, unshakable refusal to become what you're fighting against. That's the story. That's what happened when a biker attacked Judge Caprio in court. Not revenge, not rage, just a man in a robe who understood that real justice isn't about breaking people down. It's about giving them a reason to build themselves back up. If the story moved you, if it made you think about mercy, accountability, or the power of choice, leave a comment about where you're watching from or what it meant to you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Order in the Court so you never miss moments that remind us all what justice really looks like. Tomorrow, we'll be back with another case, another decision, another reminder that the most powerful person in the room is often the one who chooses compassion over condemnation. Dramatization for storytelling and education, not legal advice or reporting.